Perfect. Hello, good morning, everyone. It is good to see you all. Thank you so much. Thank you to our speakers for being on our program today. And we are happy to have you on Global Entrepreneurship Week program. It has been a long week program. This program started this Monday, and today we're on the fourth day of the program. And today we'll be looking at the theme driving inclusion in West Africa, the power of social entrepreneurship. This sub-theme focuses on the immense potential of social entrepreneurship in driving inclusion across West Africa. It aims to shed light on the innovation solutions and impactful ventures that are addressing social and economic challenges in the region. By exploring the role of social entrepreneurship, this sub-theme seeks to inspire and empower individuals to create positive change, foster collaboration, and promote inclusivity across various sectors. Today, it is my singular pleasure to welcome Joshua Martin Bambi Moyale and Pastor Debola Deji Kurumi to American Spaces program. Indeed, we are delighted to have you both. I will quickly read your bio before I pass it on to my colleague Samuel to handle the moderation part of this program. Joshua Martin Bambi Moyale is a Gabonese social entrepreneur, a both Mandela Washington Fellowship and International Visitors Leadership Program alumnus from the U.S. Department of State. He's the founder of JM Entrepreneurship, and a non-profit organization which promotes entrepreneurial education to foster the development of disadvantaged communities in Gabon and in Africa. He is the founder of Women's Seminar for Community Development, WSCD, a national educational program supported by the U.S. Embassy in Gabon. He is the author of more than 15 self-published books and has trained hundreds of young social entrepreneurs from Gabon, Cameroun, and Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for Joshua, please. And our second speaker is Pastor Debola Deji Kurumi. Is an accomplished author, keynote speaker, ministry leader, public policy advisor, and transformational coach for visionary leaders. She has a unique gift for unlocking potential in people, institutions, and nations through coaching, consulting, and capacity building. Debola is the founder of IMAS Coaching Company, a professional coaching practice, and the executive director at Ideation Hub Africa, a public policy and impact advisory firm. Additionally, she serves as the president of Kingdom Leaders Global Alliance, a non-denominational Christian ministry. Ideation Hub Africa runs a social profit accelerator that provides executive education, collaborative platforms, funding opportunities, and advisory services to support African non-profit innovators, civil society organizations, and public sector agencies. Since 2015, Ideation Hub Africa has also hosted Development Dialogue, Nigeria's leading development sector conference. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together to Debola right away. Thank you so much. You're welcome to our platform. I will kindly hand you over to Samuel Eyiterile. Samuel, over to you now.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you very much for the good introduction of our facilitators today. What I will want us to do first is I want the two speakers to please tell us what social entrepreneurship is in a minute each. So we start with Debola and then we go to Joshua, so that we can understand the context, and then We now allow you, so we start with Debola to give us between 15 to 20 minutes of our presentation, and then Joshua will now follow, and then we'll have the interaction. So if you could just give us the opening 1 minute, Debola, and then Joshua, over to you then. So let's start with Debola.
Okay, thank you, sir. I'm excited to be here, and I really feel like the inclusion of social entrepreneurship in the conversation at the Global Entrepreneurship Week is an exciting one. Social entrepreneurship, at its most basic definition, is a business model or an approach to innovative entrepreneurship towards solving social problems. So it's almost like taking what you do with an entrepreneurial endeavor, creating value, creating products, creating solutions, but with a keen focus not on profit first, but a desire to create social impact and to heal society of some of its pressing challenges, whether it's across education, healthcare, gender advocacy, energy and environment, etc. But that's a basic way to look at it.
Thank you. Joshua?
Well, thank you very much for giving me the floor. Well, social entrepreneurship can be approached in two different ways. I will just present it to you from the perspective I experience it. So you can go either as an individual, so you are developing a social activity on behalf of a particular group of people, and you mobilize all the resources necessary for you to be successful in what you're doing. Or you can go in the other route, which is under the umbrella of a nonprofit organization, which can be an NGO, an association, or even a cooperative. So this is basically the two possibilities that you can consider when it comes to social entrepreneurship. Of course, the end of what you're doing, the purpose of it has to do with the social inclusion, the transformation of the lives of the people who are beneficiaries of your activities. So this is what I can say about that. And,
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now we go ahead with the discussion of the topic. So Debola, you'll take the lead, and then we now have Joshua. Driving inclusion in West Africa, the power of social entrepreneurship. Over to you, Debola.
Okay, thank you very much. Quite excited to be here. One of the things I wanted to highlight in getting on into the conversation is the work that we do at Ideation Hub Africa. In the course of the last about 8 years, we built a 25,000 plus ecosystem of early stage social entrepreneurs who are working in about 29 African countries. And so I do really find that part of my work exciting, providing an ecosystem, providing executive education, linkages to markets and funding opportunities, as well as even collaborative platforms for young social entrepreneurs to really be able to get their work going and to create the change that they desire to create in the world. So again, I will sort of be speaking from the point of view of the insights that I've found right in the midst of the work that I do at Ideation Hub Africa, and stories of impact that we've seen over the course of the years, as well as maybe a few insights about where the biggest growth areas might be for social entrepreneurs who really want to be in the front lines of driving transformation, influencing policy, delivering social benefit to likely a large scale of people or whoever their defined beneficiaries are. I love some of the things that Joshua also started to, touch on in his brief introduction. And I know that we'll get a chance to just open up some of those thoughts a bit more. But a good place to start, again, is the recognition that across the continent of Africa, social entrepreneurship over the course of the last actively about a decade and a half has been a key trigger for development and economic prosperity. In fact, in the face of the significant inefficiencies of our governance and political structure, as well as even, the private sector, business and markets, in the midst of those inefficiencies and challenges that we've been faced with, in our ability to deliver social good to those who need it the most. Social entrepreneurs, non-profit practitioners have been at the center of augmenting those inefficiencies and being able to create solutions that have reached the underserved, the vulnerable population, and created a very significant impact in sort of just moving us forward as a continent. So 100%, whether you're thinking about it from the point of view of economic solutions, or you're thinking about it from point of view of political stability, support for the underprivileged or the disadvantaged, or even just the activism of being able to call the attention of government and decision makers to pressing challenges that are faced by those who cannot really own a voice yet. You find social entrepreneurs at the front lines of, creating change, providing social benefit, transforming lives, delivering advocacy and activism for those who don't have their own voice, and facilitating bridges of justice for the oppressed and the defenseless. So social entrepreneurship has been a significant trigger for transformation on the continent. And if I think about the people in Ideation Hub Africa, just so many inspiring stories of people working across impact areas, making a difference. And so it is going to remain a compelling pathway to economic recovery, to social development, to national prosperity. And some of the fascinating things for me about social entrepreneurship that I would love to highlight in this short talk is how it sits at the very center of both entrepreneurial activity and the capacity to deliver social value. What do I mean by this? There has been a misconception that was even embraced by social entrepreneurs and impact makers themselves about how do I describe it? That misconception is drawn from perceiving social entrepreneurs as less entrepreneurial, thinking that we're just altruistic, interested in doing good, and it's just some, welfareism, nice or random acts of kindness. But it's definitely not that. In fact, the way that I perceive a social entrepreneur is that they are twice the entrepreneur. To really participate in effective social entrepreneurship, you really have to understand the power of entrepreneurship itself in terms of being able to spot opportunities where others see problems, being able to create innovation where existing products and services have been but are not fully meeting the needs of a market. It's about being able to demonstrate fortitude to push against the odds and to tweak the equilibrium of society in a way that can achieve even greater good, right? It's being able to leverage technology to reach even more people and to scale the possibilities of your work. So social entrepreneurship is twice the entrepreneurship. Every time you find a courageous, innovative, visionary leader who has spotted a problem in society and says, I want to make a difference, whether they are working as, they're starting off as individuals, or they are building that change, that theory of change through a bigger institution, whether it's a nonprofit, a public-private partnership, however context they choose to deliver the work. The moment you find an innovative, visionary leader who says, there's a crisis here and I want to make a difference, and I'm willing to mobilize the resources, take an innovative approach, leverage technology, engage the stakeholders, and create new possibilities to solve that problem. You're talking about social entrepreneurship. Now, when you've taken that entrepreneurial part of the activities that have to be executed within the framework of social entrepreneurship, you then move to the dimensions of how is social impact delivered. A social entrepreneur sits in the middle of entrepreneurship and social change, social impact. And there are two core dimensions that I would love to highlight and I have found to be quite effective in the way that an entrepreneurial leader can think about creating social change or delivering social value or creating impact. One is to situate your work within the context of the SDGs. We already have a phenomenal framework in the Sustainable Development Goals, highlighting 17 goals that, you know, a leader can explore to say, hey, this is how I want to create change. This is where I want to go with the work that I'm called to do. And you could be exploring the desire to end poverty or to bring the world to zero hunger. You could be passionate about good health and well-being or quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, right? You could be passionate about industry innovation and infrastructure, reduced inequalities. You could even say, I want to build partnerships for the goals, on and on that way. Wherever you really find your greatest passion, the question becomes, the moment you look at the Sustainable Development Goals and you see yourself lining up behind whether it's education or healing hunger and, you know, zero poverty, dealing with the inequalities, especially with the genders, right? From that point on of lining behind the goals, you can then drive entrepreneurial activity toward achieving those goals. The second approach you could consider taking, and we've actually found a lot of our own entrepreneurs, especially in Nigeria and a number of West African countries, not directly operating the Sustainable Development Goals, but working within what we call impact areas. And across the continent, there are actually about 21 different impact areas. A person could say, look, I really want to focus on, you know, sustainable fashion or access to equitable healthcare, or I really want to focus on education or gender advocacy, girl-child empowerment, you know, orphans and vulnerable children, energy and environment, right? And rural financial inclusion, economic empowerment, and entrepreneurial activities in underserved regions. And we've got all these different impact areas that are like clusters where key challenges occur within a society, and you can drive entrepreneurial activity in that direction. I'm going to move on to two key pillars of what I want to share, and I'll start to tie this to a close. The next key insight I would love to pull out before getting on to specific advisory for how we can expand social entrepreneurship on the continent to really drive inclusion further is to highlight a few stories that really stand out in my mind about some people within our ecosystem who continue to use the power of social entrepreneurship to create such radical change. We can look at someone like Aramide Kayode. Aramide Kayode is in her early 20s, has done such phenomenal work with her academy called Talent Mine Academy in Nigeria. Before she's had this major break that I will speak to you about, which is like the next big level of what Talent Mine Academy has done. Until about last year, in the course of the last 5 to 7 years, Aramide Kayode's Talent Mine Academy will go into the slums and the you know, poorest communities in the southwest of Nigeria. And she was raising ambassadors out of young children between the ages of 8 and 14, who were now they became ambassadors of good values. And she would run comprehensive training programs for these young children of poor families concerning, you know, hygiene, safe driving, taking care of the environment, the African heritage, understanding civility and civic values, everything the typical citizen of Nigeria should know and embody, right? But we typically do not embody. She reckoned that if we understood the right values as a people, we will ultimately be able to tackle some of the issues around our crime rate, some of the issues around rape and, you know, emotional, verbal, physical abuse, domestic violence, even accident on roads. And so she said, look, if adults are too set in their ways, then I want to work with young children. And in the course of the years, she's reached actively, they say they've actively reached over 5,000 adults in communities, transferring these values of our civility and our African heritage, right? And what makes us Nigerians to these adults through the young children. They've trained maybe almost 1,000 young children and sent them out as ambassadors, held campaigns, and it's been a strategy of transferring the right values to these adults. In more recent times, last year on to this year, Aramide has actually now launched a free-to-attend school for low-income children of low-income families. And the model here that is powered by social entrepreneurship is the recognition. One of the things within the social entrepreneurship model is the recognition that the consumer doesn't have to be the buyer. In traditional entrepreneurship, you have a keen focus on creating value for markets and activating the dynamics of demand and supply, right? You figure your ideal buyer persona, and then you understand their needs, create a solution that really meets those needs, and they make an exchange of value for value. In accessing your solution, they pay to access that product or that service. And that is a typical construct upon which entrepreneurship rides and survives. Now, we come in with social entrepreneurship as a strategic and innovative deviation from the norm while still keeping the core principles of entrepreneurship. And one of the things that you find within the social entrepreneurship model is that we can go ahead and create value for people, but those people don't have to be the one who pay. Of course, it takes a whole different level of creativity to run a sustainable business model, making impact and always sourcing for the resources that continue to keep that business or that organization afloat. So she's figured out a multi-tiered fundraising model where I was even part of the crowdfunding initiative that she launched this year, where everyday people, well-meaning people came together in their numbers. And the resources that well-meaning everyday people put together was enough to actually erect a multi-classroom school. Do you see? They got the land, they built on it, they built the library, they filled it up with books, got the uniforms for the children, and they ran a merit-based application system that brought in some of the brightest kids in these low-income families to be able to access education without paying. This is the power of social entrepreneurship. It's breathtaking. So if we believe that social entrepreneurship is a key part of unlocking the future, do I have to round up now, sir?
Like 2-3 minutes more?
In 2-3 minutes. Okay, thank you. So if we believe that social entrepreneurship is critical in unlocking the future, what have I found that I can put in the hands of any social entrepreneur as critical tools to really fast track and accelerate the work that we're called to do on the continent? Number one will be intelligent problem probing. I find too many social entrepreneurs who are not clear about what the real issues are. Sometimes you really think you are in education, but you're not in education, because the children aren't coming to school because they're afraid of bullies and they're afraid of sexual predators in hiding behind the teachers. So you have to understand what the real issues are for you to be able to craft sustainable solutions to them. So problem probing that is data-driven and that is evidence-based. The second thing is the creativity for executing fundraising approaches. Since we've said that sometimes the consumers can't pay, you have to know how you're going to pay for the services that you're creating, because they have to be paid for. And you have to even I'm saying to a lot of social entrepreneurs on the continent now, especially in Nigeria and across West Africa, take your eyes off the big institutions, the banks, the oil companies, and start to ride on the passion of the average citizen to see their country become better. And when you start to see those drops, they will come together into a big ocean. And the third I would stop at is the power of strategic alliances and ecosystems. We are now in a time where to be able to negotiate effectively for policy reformations within our governments, we have to come together and become mammoth ecosystems that can actually lay key demands. If you go as an individual, it's not going to work, but we still reckon and understand that we need the government as key partners, providing political will where just our good intentions will not be enough. Thank you for the opportunity, and I will stop here.
Thank you very much. Let's put our hands together. That's an exciting and inspiring session. Sincerely, I do not want to repeat anything she has said. I want Joshua to please go ahead and give his presentation. Then we open door for conversation. Over to you, Joshua.
Thank you for giving me the flow, and thank you again, Debola, for your presentation and for all the details that you highlighted, which are very important when it comes to social entrepreneurship. The importance of stereotypes that people have when it comes to making profit in social entrepreneurship. You reminded this very important aspect that people sometimes misunderstand because they hear entrepreneurship and social. Sometimes it can cause confusion because it can be an oxymoron. How can you have a social activity and talk about profit? When we talk about social entrepreneurship, what people must understand, especially aspiring social entrepreneurs, is that you start from a social activity that takes your time, that takes your energy, that takes even your money. So in the long run, you won't be able to support it. So that's the reason why you need to support it with money. Money responds to everything. So that's the reason why you have to put in place an ecosystem, just like she mentioned, that is going to support it in the long run. But before we go any further, let me just come back to a very fundamental element when it comes to social entrepreneurship. Social entrepreneurship starts from your experience, your story, an event that happens to you, because it boils down to a civic engagement, in fact. So that's the reason why I fully agree with Debola. It is a heart entrepreneurship. You do it with your heart. So something must have happened to you, or even if it is not you, it may be a person close to you or a person whose story was told to you, and that's really stirred something up inside of you, and you decide to engage civically, to engage socially in order to bring a solution to that. So that's the reason why I say that every social entrepreneur has a story, and that story carries the solution to the problems that so many people are going through, are facing in your community or in your state or in the entire continent, in the world. So that's the reason why we should not neglect what we are going through, because it starts from a position of vulnerability. So that's the reason why it's a social activity. It starts from a position of vulnerability, just like I said. So yesterday, I think it was the day before yesterday, there was a very interesting conversation that was directed by one of the speakers. Who she mentioned the importance. In fact, she advised against creating a business for having grants. And this is a very, very important point there, because this is very common in our countries. We know that so many people, whenever they hear about grant opportunities, they can do anything to get that. They can create business. And we know that when we create the business based on this motivation, this is not going to last. It's going to collapse very quickly. And this is a reality which is very common in the nonprofit sector where I specialize. And I found myself in a situation like this that really became a turning point in my social entrepreneurial career. So I remember that back in 2015, I created a cooperative with two of my friends. Let me just share with you very quickly this story. We created a cooperative, and it was specialized in agriculture. And we heard about funding opportunities, grants that were available and proposed by some institutional diplomatic institutions. And we applied for a program, and 200 cooperatives, nonprofit organizations, and social businesses applied for that program, and only 12 had been selected, and we were among those 12 cooperatives. So when we received the fund, Gabon is a French-speaking country. We speak French there, and English is the second official language. This is just a parenthesis. So everything was doing well when we didn't have the money. When we received the grant, we found ourselves in trouble. Some began to speak some foreign languages. We were not able to understand one another anymore. You understand by that the project failed. And I was very frustrated, very sad, because I had put too much energy on the project and that failed just in front of my eyes. One of the members went away with part of the project of the budget, and I was very, very frustrated. Those are things that most of the time we hear in organizations. So and so, this is what they're going through. This is what they have experienced. And when this happens to you, you're like, you're not really doing well when this happens to you. And I began to do whatever I could to save the project in order to save my reputation, because this is very important when it comes to social entrepreneurship, because it's a matter of trust. It's a matter of trust. So I do whatever I could. I informed the partner about the situation. I said, I have changed the format. I have changed the location of where the project is going to take place. This is what I'm about to do. And by the way, this is what I've already started doing. So this is now the new configuration of the project. So I sat down and I began to learn about all the mistakes that I made personally in terms of leadership, in terms of communication, in terms of paying attention to some details, because details are very important. So I began to put those different pieces of information into a PowerPoint presentation. I was literally creating a training program for myself without being aware that I was preparing a transformational training program that would touch hundreds of lives in my country. So I was there, and a couple of years, a year later, I received a phone call from the U.S. Department of the U.S. Mission in Gabon. And when I went there, I was told that I had been nominated by the U.S. Department of State to participate in the IVLP program, International Visitor Leadership Program, because of my civic engagement. And when I went there, I learned about social entrepreneurship. I didn't know about this concept, even though I was doing it. And when I came back, this just reinforced my engagement. I built JM Entrepreneurship, the NGO we told you about at the beginning. And now we've been training after 7 years, hundreds of women through our program, the Women's Seminar for Community Development. We have taught them about the mistakes that they should avoid for them not to find themselves in the situation which I had been before. Many of them have created businesses. Many of them have created their own nonprofit organizations. They've received grants, they've received funds here and there. And some of them have even represented Gabon in Canada, in France, in other countries in Africa. We really, today, very proud of it, because it comes as a result of a personal experience and a learning attitude from the mistakes that we made. You see, that's the reason why I'm saying that it starts somewhere. It starts from what you are living. You know, because if you consider it's going to support, to sustain your engagement, you're going to have a strong engagement in your social entrepreneurial activity. Because many of the people who create businesses, social businesses, just for the sake of money, when the money comes, they just find themselves in the situation I've just described to you. But when you have vision, whether money comes or it goes away, you still have vision. This is your driving force. This is what motivates you. A social entrepreneur is a person who is attached to his vision. And now that you have a vision, what do? Of course, you have to create a team. You have to identify the people who are like-minded. They don't necessarily have the same skills as you, but at least they know about your vision and they adhere to that, and they put themselves available to work with you. And once you have that team, of course, you have an action plan. You have activities that you have to put in place. You have to start small. You don't necessarily have to do like others, because this is also one of the characteristics of a social entrepreneur. It doesn't do things based on what people say, based on what people do. It does things mostly based on his instinct, on his passion, on the authenticity of the integrity of his engagement. So this is really a very important thing, because When you do things according to what people say or what people do, you're not going to be true to yourself. And social entrepreneurship is a matter of authenticity. You have to be really authentic with your vision. So those are things that I learned. And I transformed that, I should even say, that instructive failure into something that becomes now my foundation to make sure that every social entrepreneur that I have in front of me who is in need of education for in terms of volunteering, in terms of management, in terms of leadership, has to consider those different parameters, because so many nonprofit organizations are failing. And when you check out the reasons of their failure, it is a matter of leadership, management, but also a lack of literacy when it comes to volunteering. Debola talked about that. This is very important, the culture of volunteering. Many people may be, and this is again, when it comes to stereotypes, people think that you are wasting your time when you volunteer in an organization. They think that you have maybe wasted your life. I don't know, spoiled your life. I don't know how to express that. But what they ignore is that you gain knowledge, you have access to knowledge. And this is a universal environment when you go into an organization, a serious organization, because there are different people, different cultures, different habits, different practices, different things, different approaches that you can use and exploit it for your own personal development. So this is the first thing that you gain, knowledge. You have skills that you can develop by volunteering. You also have experience that you can accumulate. You can have connections, people who can recommend you or connect you to other people. In addition to that, you may also have travel opportunities. You may have all those different assets that we cannot find when we are only driven by money and start our own economic business somewhere and only think about that profit. So all those different assets can be converted into a business, a real business. And to be very transparent with you, all the skills that I have developed, professional skills, it is within this context. And I needed to sometimes, of course, because I have a what do you call it, bachelor's degree in English, but all the other degrees that I got, it is based on the volunteering activities I've been involved in. And all of this starts from an engagement, a passion, a vision, a commitment to this. And of course, today we can see that people are really transformed, because the purpose of all of this is social transformation, but it can only take place when it is driven by a person who is committed to his engagement, committed to his vision. So please make sure that this foundation is really what you consider if you want to engage into social entrepreneurship. And for those who are already in that, please reconsider this. It is very important. It will help you in all the connections that you will have, the interaction with all the other social economic development actors in your community, whether individuals, local associations, local businesses, governmental entities, international organizations. They consider this very aspect, which is yet neglected by so many people. Are you true to yourself? Do you do things based on your vision or because of lucrative considerations? Very important. Social entrepreneurship is first and foremost a social activity that requires an economic activity that will support it, but that will not dilute it. You understand? This is very important. So I just can stop there, not to monopolize. I don't know how many left I have, but yeah.
It's the right time for, let's just put hands together for our speakers today. Are you clapping? Clap very well. Thank you, Joshad. Thank you, our dear sister, for the wonderful insight. It's a very, very powerful I don't know whether you people that are listening are really getting the message. In the context of what we know in the African region today, we need social entrepreneurship because we need transformation, which government in all these states are not giving us. And so would you be willing to join and become a social entrepreneur? Yes or no? I can't hear you.
Yeah.
Great, great. I would like to thank all of us who are joining us. I can see right on our Facebook page, we have people joined us from Lesotho, from South Africa, from Gabon, from Serra Léone. We also have on the Zoom, we have people from Ghana, we
Cameroon.
have from Benin City, Enugu, we have from Abuja, Uyo, Duse, Gombe, Makurdi, Minna, Oka, Ibadan, Calabar, Port Harcourt. In fact, this is a very, very powerful session. And this is the opportunity we now have to interact with these two great minds. So if you have any question, you know how we do it. Please raise your virtual hand up and I will recognize you. For those who are on Facebook, please make sure you put in your comments, your question, and then we'll be able to read all of them to our speakers. So do we have any question from any of us? Yes, I've seen Calabar. Any other person? Okay, Calabar, you can unmute yourself and ask your question. Please don't say my question is, just ask your question. What is, so that we can really maximize the time. So Calabar, over to you. Calabar.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I have a question. Can you hear me, please?
Just ask your question.
Okay.
You can ask that.
I've heard the stories. Good morning, everyone. I've heard the stories concerning social entrepreneur, and I want to know how it affects our traditional business sectors and how it can bring about innovative solutions.
Okay, how it affects the traditional businesses.
Business sector, yes.
Now, if your question is directed at any of the speakers or you want any of them to, you also need to indicate that.
Yes, the lady.
Any of this,
the
so
lady.
you want the lady. That's Debola to answer. Okay, Debola, over to you.
Okay, thank you for the question, even though I'm struggling a little bit to understand it. How does the social entrepreneurship space impact on traditional businesses? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Okay. I would believe that social entrepreneurship sort of strengthens the entrepreneurial landscape. It enriches the entrepreneurial landscape, even though I feel like social entrepreneurs still need to upgrade their capacity to engage in cross sector collaboration, multilateral collaborations. Because what you would find is that social entrepreneurship sits at the center of other sectors. You know, sometimes you actually say that the social entrepreneurship sector or the social sector is also called the third sector, i.e. you have the government as the public sector, you have businesses as the private sector, and then you have the social entrepreneurs and nonprofit practitioners in the third sector. And one of the things you will find is that to succeed with a social entrepreneurship endeavor, you actually need a lot of cross-sectoral collaboration. You have to know how to engage the government. You have to know how to engage the private sector. In fact, I now say you also have to know how to engage the academics and the research practitioners to be able to draw all the necessary insights as well as mobilize resources that you need to be able to win with a social entrepreneurial venture. But I would say that it enriches the entrepreneurial landscape, enriches the ability to win with business, and it also augments the solutions that businesses provide but want to earn from. And we're able to take those solutions, rethink and re-innovate on them. Do you see? So I'm going to give you an example. There are businesses who are in the space of private universities, right? There are businesses who are in the space of hospitality. There are businesses who are in the space of executive education. But you can find social entrepreneurs who take solutions provided by traditional businesses and they look out for how to rethink the resources used in a way that they don't have to incur as much costs so that the pricing of those products are way cheaper. And that's the kind of thing you find with Peju Jayoba, who runs Mother's Delivery Kit, and I'll just tie it up and leave it there. She runs Mother's Delivery Kit, and what she does is she provides kits that have all the sanitary requirements for a woman to have a safe delivery. She passes them on alongside medical training to traditional birth attendants. So even though you can't come to a hospital, you go to a traditional birth attendant, but she has created a kit that has everything a mother needs. The sanitary towels, the instruments for cutting, the, cleaning, disinfecting liquids, everything is in there at the fraction of the cost because she's using more cost-effective production approaches, do you see, to source the things she needs, as well as raising funds so that she can provide it for a really discounted amount to women in rural areas, thus managing maternal mortality. I hope that helps in some way.
Yes, I do. Thank you very much. Your story inspired me, and I think I'll look forward to going into social entrepreneurship.
Joshua,
Thank you.
Yes, any addition? All right, thank you.
I think it's
In fact, okay, Peju that she mentioned is going to be one of our facilitators of the entrepreneurship training that we're hosting starting from 17th of this month, which we have announced to you. So we encourage you to all sign up for this course. Let's go straight to Benin City. One question for Benin City. Please unmute yourself. And if you want to, make sure you direct your question. If not, we ask Joshua to handle it.
Can hear you, sir. We are here and we are ready. I think the popular question we have here is we would like the facilitators to share with us their challenges when they started engaging or getting into social entrepreneurship, because these people we have here are young people, students, and they would like to venture into social entrepreneurship, and they want to hear their stories, the challenges they experienced when they started venturing into this aspect of entrepreneurship.
Thank you. Joshua?
Well, this is a very good question, just like I always say. Social entrepreneurship, I think for those who start, they have to consider it first as volunteering. Let's just consider this very powerful word, volunteering. You provide, so what is volunteering? Let's just break this down. Volunteering is putting your talent at your disposal of a beneficiary, like in a person who is in need. It may be a need of an educational order, of a physical order, of a social order. So you engage to provide the service that will satisfy, that will help the person. So you are a servant. You do it not because you expect to be paid. You do it because it is something which is worthy, it is a humanitarian act that you are doing, if you can put it this way. Sorry, I'm a French native speaker. Sometimes my English, but I think you understand what I'm saying. So you are really helping people because it is a noble action. So it starts by volunteering, social entrepreneurship. And of course, you cannot do it alone. You need to be with people who are developing this action within a very specific framework. So it has to be under just like I said, the umbrella of an association, of an NGO. It starts right there. It starts by there. So the activity has to speak to your passion. What is your passion? Are you passionate about education? Are you passionate about food? Are you passionate about environment matters? What is your passion? And how can you develop this passion by being within the framework of an association with other people who have the same passion as you? Because what does volunteering do in a person's life? Volunteering enables you to discover your talent. You already have your passion. This is a good thing. It is a force that you have to do something. But volunteering will sharpen your talent. It will enable you to discover it, to develop it, and to value it. This is basically what volunteering does. It enables you to discover your talent. It enables you to develop it by working, by serving people. And at the end of it, you will have to value it by serving, by promoting it. And now that you find yourself in an association, either you have the position of the leader or you are just a volunteer, you have to promote it because partners outside need to see what you're doing. And what you're doing, it can be included in the logics of a marketing. So that's the reason why you should not be shocked by that. There is an entrepreneurial flavor in a social activity. We are marketing every day on a regular basis. We are trying to convince people that what we are doing is worthy to be supported. So that's the reason why when you do things, you have to take pictures, you have to engage media coverage so that people will see what you're doing. But again, you don't do it because of money. You do it just to show that, hey, if I have the support of you guys, I can do more than that. You understand what I'm saying? So it has to do with an authentic engagement. So make sure that you start by volunteering. Yeah.
Okay. Debola, do you have anything to add? Thank you.
I think Richard excellently covered it. Well done.
All right, Duse, we'll go to Duse Jigawa. Unmute yourself. And then American Shell Kanema, please get set. Duse.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
We really appreciate with this your program, and we really enjoy this program. We are thanking you also. Our question is, how can we promote social entrepreneurship?
How can we promote social entrepreneurship where?
In some rural areas.
In rural areas. Okay, thank you very much. Any thoughts?
I would share a few, and then I hope if Joshua has some additions. But from the experience we've had with social entrepreneurs in our ecosystem, I find three things really striking in being able to drive social entrepreneurship in rural areas. Number one is the concept of beneficiary-centered approach. There is a way that a social entrepreneur can practice what is called armchair analysis. You see it and you calculate, and in your own mind, you're like, these are their problems, these are the issues, and you're trying to impose a solution to a problem you don't even understand because you're an outsider to their realities. And many times we unconsciously perceive people in rural areas as maybe not sufficiently intelligent, but it's so wrong. They live in the context. They have all the answers for what the key issues are. So you want to drive social entrepreneurship in a rural area, you have to take a beneficiary-centered approach where you engage them and you co-create solutions based on the perspectives they share, and you have to get their buy-in, right? So that is a critical thing, and we've seen it work. Riding on that, a second key thing is you have to understand that within rural communities, there is the power of communalism. And what that means is, especially in communities that have a strong history, strong heritage, and it's not too large, it means that there are families who know families, and there are cultures that have been forged for many decades, for many centuries. And so it means that you might not be able to easily come and introduce alternate ideas, even if you feel like they are superior. So you always need to go through those called change champions. You have to find the decision makers, the influential voices. You work with religious leaders, you work with traditional rulers, you work with head of small family units. And even though many times women often show up as quick vanguards of change, you still also have to understand those that influence the women, and you have to engage them. So you will then find these change champions, partner with them, break the solution down to them. This is how we want to help. And they need to trust you. They need to know, like, and trust you, or else they will think you're an outsider who wants to use them. And remember that many social entrepreneurs and non-profit organizations have gone to rural areas and they have messed things up by using them to gain funding from international donors without delivering value, right? So you have to then establish those connection points, gain their buy-in, and then sell the solution to them. When they own it, they'll be able to pass it on to their people, and that's how you get a rallying crowd. The third thing is to quickly overcome the language and cultural barriers. So you need to train in their language. You need to find people who understand their language to work with you, who understand the culture to work with you. And sometimes you might need to stay there for a while before you are really able to understand how to drive the change you want to create. Those would be my contributions.
Thank you very much. So let's go on to our Facebook Live. You can see a lot of questions here. Let me take the question from okay, let me move away from this. Okay, from Abubakar Ibrahim is asking how can a single person execute a sustained grant on social as a social entrepreneur? I really don't understand this, but if you do, please try and attend to it. Another question is, that's from Fode, from Kenema, Serra Léone. Culture has been a challenging matter for individuals on the globe. How can this problem be solved for a person intended to be in business? So those are the two questions I can take for now. And then we move on to the next one on this Zoom. Who wants to take this? Joshad?
Please, can you say that again, the second question about the culture? I didn't really
okay, it says culture has been a challenging factor for individuals on the globe. In other words, how could cultural problem be solved for somebody intending to be a social entrepreneur?
So please, I'm going to try to give an answer to this. In case it is not quite appropriate to the question, please let me know before I continue to develop. Right? But what I think that I've understood from that, by that, is that, well, when you are a social entrepreneur, you are obligated to be open-minded, because you will interact with your beneficiaries who may have a language barrier, just like Debola said. And a language is part of a culture of people. Culture, you have lifestyle, language, habits, practices, all those things. So for you to really know how to interact with your beneficiaries, even with potential partners, you have to be open-minded. So meaning that some of the considerations that you have to just establish a kind of balance for you to be open and interact, communication for this. So it plays a very important role because it is a matter of giving and receiving. So I cannot be open to you and you give me and I cannot give you. So the notion of reciprocity really has to be considered. And for you to be reciprocal with people, you have first and foremost to be open-minded. So it plays a very important role in terms of education. You have to take, most of the time, you take class from people who may be even from a different cultural background, from a different intellectual background as well. I remember that in some associations, there were people who were really small in terms of age, who trained people of a certain age, but because they knew exactly where they wanted to go, they knew exactly why they engaged civically and they engaged in social entrepreneurship, they submitted to the authority of the knowledge of the people who were training them. This is also a way for you to open yourself up, culturally speaking. It is a very important thing to submit to the knowledge of one another in the organization. Even, by the way, this is in the context of nonprofit sector, right? Okay, it is not individually, but in the nonprofit sector, sometimes you will see people who will be very difficult to approach. And this, again, it's another school. Each person is almost kind of a school. So you have to learn how to deal with the person. And all of this, you have to put a certain limitation to your limitations. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. So it really starts by that. It's very important. So
thank you very much. Debola, anything to add? All right, let's go to American Shell, Kanema, Serra Léone, and then we followed it by Benin City, Window in America, and then we now refer back to the facilitators. Over to you, Kanema.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This question is going to Debola C. She mentioned all the problems of social entrepreneurship. So now my question is, how can you respond as a young individual, or we, the young people in Africa, how can we respond to those challenges or those problems we have in entrepreneurship?
So do you want me to speak to the challenges with social entrepreneurship or
yes,
challenges in society that social entrepreneurship can deal with? How do young people
respond to those challenges you mentioned in the earlier?
You remember you mentioned 21 impact areas. Is that what
exactly? So is that what he's saying? Is it how do we respond to the challenges of society as young people using social entrepreneurship?
Is that your question?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay, that's a great question. Thank you so much. And thank you all for being plugged in. I think that, you know, you've even given us a topic area that, you know, we should actually explore at American Corner privately to really say, how do young people show up? Because when you are young, you have unique opportunities as a young person, but you also have unique limitations as a young person. And let me highlight a few things that I believe can really work quickly as a young person who wants to make a difference. Number one, connect your purpose to a problem in society. What I mean with this is, just like Joshad was speaking about, how significant dimensions of social entrepreneurship are created out of personal experience. It is so true. I advise, and I will still share that, I advise that people explore volunteering, and I will speak to it again because it's so powerful for young people. In fact, maybe I start from that. Let me start from that, and I will come to problem, and purpose as the second thing. Don't start off being, don't stress yourself trying to birth a big vision yet. It's like, oh, I want to create my own firm. I want to make a big difference through my own direct project. Don't worry about trying to start a project if you have not started, okay? In fact, some young people started too quickly and then they got discouraged and they backed off on their goals. Start off with being a part of an ecosystem. volunteering to make a difference. Everywhere across the continent, there are NGOs, social impact businesses, advocacy groups, and already being a part of the American corner where you are is already a sign that you are passionate about making a difference and you are plugged into an ecosystem. Start to actually ask, where are spaces where I can volunteer my time, I can volunteer my energy, I can volunteer my connections, I can go into a secondary school, devote 2 hours talking to young boys once every week for the next year, volunteer. Or I can be a social media associate, volunteer. Or I can get into the fields and be part of the conversations at an advocacy event, whatever. Or I can go into the fields and support, young, elderly farmers in rural areas to help them with their packaging and processing. Volunteer. Start off with volunteering. Every young person can volunteer their skill. That is the space of where you would even clarify what your purpose is. That's where you really understand what has your heart. There's nothing I didn't do in the social impact space as a young person till I started to then narrow down and say, I'm passionate about this. I'm not that passionate about this. After you started volunteering, it will fine-tune your skills. It will clarify your sense of purpose. It will give you a sense of fulfillment and you'll be able to make a difference. And you will also grow the experience you need if you get called to actually start your own social entrepreneurial project. From then on, the second key thing is there are problems in the world and no one person can solve all the problems in the world. What you are likely to succeed the most at solving are problems that are really connected to your passion and your purpose. And if you start with volunteering, you get to a point where you are getting clear and you're saying, this education thing, we must fix it. These children beggars on the street, we must solve it. This inequitable access to healthcare for people with disabilities, we must solve it. This girl-child empowerment, we must fix it. You would now start to narrow, right? Not to take too much time. The third thing I must speak to is the power of a collective. Young people seem to only rally around creating nuisance many times. That's what it looks like in many African countries. It's just when they want to burn things down, harass people or, forcefully have their way, block the road from rich men not passing. That's why you see young people now really coming together. But we're saying no more. Young people have to start to create coalitions and collectives. All of us in American Corner that came together at American Shell, this year or this month for this event, before we leave today, let's just gather and say, what can we work on? What can we pull resources together on? What can we devote our time and thinking to? Be a part of an ecosystem, build an ecosystem, drive a collective. We are more powerful in our numbers. Go into a school together, discuss with the principal that we've been hearing about bullying and we've been hearing about assault of rape to girls in the senior secondary school when they are passing through these corners. Can we light up the corners? Can we get vanguards to protect them when they're going home? Go together and enforce the power of unity to achieve a change that you want in that particular community. Those would be my suggestions.
Thank you very much. Richard?
Yes, I agree. I fully agree with Devola, with what you said. And I will just add one thing to that. It is the importance of documenting your experience. It plays a very important role. No matter how big it is or small it is, if you have carried out, if you have worked on something and it worked out, please take your pen. If you don't have a laptop, take a pen, take a sheet of paper or a book, a notebook, write the process that you have followed for you to reach that result. It's going to serve you, it's going to constitute a very strong data, okay, that you will refer to, the day you, the need for this knowledge will show up. So this is very important to document your experiences. All of what you are learning by doing, you will not necessarily learn it at school. You will learn it in by being in the action of working with people. So this is very, very important by documenting your experiences. This is what I've been doing for years. And today I'm referring to those pieces of information. And today I can write books to help people. And we're even, by the way, grateful for that the U.S. Department of State supported us, the NGO, by funding a free book distribution tour that has contributed to change many of our participants who created business after those programs, just because today the experience that I have documented, this raw material, has been exploited as I needed to. So this is really something that I wanted to recommend to you. Your experience has a value. It has a transformational value. It depends on how you exploit it. Don't despise it because you are not well known. Don't despise it because people don't recognize it yet. But it takes time. You have to build it. I know that today we are in a today generation. I don't know if this speaks to you. People want instant success, immediate success. They want to be seen. This is what we see, competition in economic entrepreneurship. Even in social entrepreneurship, people are also influenced by that. No, take time. Take time to build your social entrepreneurial career. And it starts by small things. And this plays a very important role. Education is key. Nelson Mandela said that education is the most powerful which we can use to change the world. And this should be another pillar in the foundation of your social entrepreneurship mentality. You must document your experience. There are some people who will need that, because as a social entrepreneur, you are an explorer. You will go to accumulate experiences as you are serving people. And those experiences are responses. They are answers. They are solutions. They are projects. They can help you to build a vision. But if you only consider what people are doing and you forget, you neglect your experience, you will never be successful in your social entrepreneurial career. So make sure that you value your experience. It's very important. No matter how small it is, it always starts small and it becomes great. Very important.
Thank you very, very much. And that will lead me to also share with you a story of someone that actually approached this office several years ago. She saw a gap in reading culture. And you know what she did? She bought these little books and she started taking them from school to school to read to children during their break time. And she was documenting this on googleblogger.com for about 9 years. And when the opportunity came from us, we announced at the time that if you have any project that you are doing, that you are making impact, by the time we saw her story, all that she requested for was granted. She requested for laptop, she requested for projector, she requested for this and that. And at the end of the day, you saw exactly what we were saying. 9 years before that break of scaling up came about. So make sure you volunteer. And at the American Spaces, we're saying we have a lot of things you can do right here. So make sure you see your director and tell your director, look, I would like to volunteer. This is the skill that I have. Please, could you just plug me in and let me do something to make a change, to make a difference? So thank you very much. We go to Bochi. Bochi.
Yeah. Okay. Good day to you all. Are you hearing me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Thanks for all your enlightening speech. I just felt as if you guys were talking to me, as in you just boosted the morale of entrepreneurship within me. My question is, what are the things that keep potential social entrepreneurs from succeeding to fulfill their potentials? Thank you.
Did you get the question? Please, can you repeat that question because I didn't get it?
Okay. What are the things that keep potential social entrepreneurs from succeeding to fulfilling their potentials?
Ebola, did you get it?
Yeah, I got it clearly. And I think it's a really great question. She's
Right,
sort
go
of
ahead.
asking if you're looking to get into social entrepreneurship, what things should you know already that could stand in the way of your success by the time you, and I feel like it can be extrapolated from a number of things we have said, today, but I will highlight again a few, and I hope that it just helps you prepare. I think the first is not investing in education. With social entrepreneurship, you start with passion, but you will find that passion is not enough. It's not enough. And one of the key differentiators I've found between African social entrepreneurs and African for-profit entrepreneurs is this matter of insufficient investment in education. An entrepreneur will fly themselves to a different country. They would invest in courses. They will get a coach. They will join communities. They will read books because literally the survival of their business depends on it. They will get a mentor, chase that mentor down. I need you to mentor me. You see, a social entrepreneur would, say they're so passionate about young children and passionate about young children with disabilities or young children living in rural areas or young children with special needs. But they're not going to take, an executive diploma in special needs childhood education. How are you really going to make a difference without education, right? Now, every single person here, whether you're already in social entrepreneurship or you want to go into, the first journal I encourage you to subscribe to is the Stanford Social Innovation Review. Go and subscribe to that first and actually begin to read. The next book I need you to read is the book on how to make impact by Ndidi Omuneli, because she actually has an African context for making a difference. Start from those dimensions. The third thing is you should actually get into Ideation Hub Africa's Social Innovation School, right? You have to be intentional about your education. A social entrepreneur, potential social entrepreneur who doesn't invest in education will either fizzle out or will shrink and just be stuck in a small dimension of their vision. It won't go far. It won't maximize its potential. The second thing is to be a lone ranger. You may start alone, but you ultimately have to become plugged into a bigger ecosystem. And we've got an African proverb, I hope it's African. It's either African or Chinese that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go with others. So that's definitely a second thing that can stand in the way of a social entrepreneur from maximizing their potential. I think the third I would highlight, and that's where I would stop, Joshad might have, additional insights, is if you're not data-driven, if a social entrepreneur does not approach their work there are many assumptions. I've seen so many assumptions in this space. And I also understand that Africa has a very unique and interesting challenge. We don't document our stories enough. That's why you've heard Joshad speaking to it again and again. If something has worked, document it, right? Many times when a social entrepreneur gets into the space, they don't know where to find data that can help them do the work they need to do. Of course, with institutions like Leap Africa, Ford Foundation, Faith Foundation, there are significant efforts being made at documenting and analyzing data in a way that we can now use it to drive our work and for policy making. So find the data for your work and document the data. Do not embark on any social impact project without having a monitoring and evaluation plan for you to be able to track the work you've done, the impact is created, and the key indicators that have been met through which you are defining success. Those would be my contributions.
Thank you very much. So we go straight to Benin City and then Port Harcourt.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? These are my questions. It pertains to getting volunteering right. I heard you two speakers talking about volunteering. The reality here is that That is, most social enterprises who accept volunteers do not get it right. They treat them as human resource tools. Actually, volunteers should be taken as partners in the enterprise or the project they are engaging. They should be involved in training, leadership development, and other things, including education, which we will talk about. But that is a big problem, even, let's say, here in Nigeria. So how can social enterprises and even the individual volunteering get this volunteering right? And importantly, to DTK, do we even have what a social enterprise is? Imagine entrepreneurship, and even the enterprise and entrepreneurship. Looking at like CAC, that is a company that registers businesses in Nigeria. They talk about non-profits, NGOs, trustees, but nothing about social enterprise, nothing like that. So how do you really key in as a business, or if you are into non-profit, to define yourself as a social enterprise entity? So these are the two major questions. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, I will go for the first question, and Debola, I don't, if you don't mind, you will probably take the second question, or no? You okay with that? Okay, good. So the first question was about, or if you want to add, in addition to what I was saying, about the mistreatment of some volunteers in organizations. This also points to the problem of capacity buildings for leaders themselves, because you cannot mistreat a volunteer if you have been a volunteer yourself, a real volunteer yourself. So we only share what we have received. So there's no way you're going to mistreat the people who help you to implement your vision. So alone you cannot do that. The Bola say that alone you can go fast, but with others you can go far. So a person who gets into social entrepreneurship in the route of the nonprofit sector is a person who has the volunteering culture first. And this is what he's going to share and impart to the people who are under his leadership. So it's a matter of capacity buildings. The leaders need themselves to be trained, to know how to consider their volunteers as collaborators, as partners. And this is a problem of, it's a misconception. They have to change this by training. So education is a consistent activity that should be considered when we engage in social entrepreneurship. And we also have to put in place what I call an ethic code. I don't know if in English it makes sense. You have to define a framework that will define the collaboration that you guys have. It has to be about the vision. It has to be about the objectives. It has to be about the values. And it also has to be about the interest. When we talk about interest, this is very important. Write this down. Then we talk about interest. The interest of all the members of the group, from the leader to the very new comer volunteer, their interest should consist in preserving the vision, preserving the objectives, and preserving the values of your organization. So if a behavior of mistreatment against a volunteer is, you observe it, you have to step in and say, this is against the values. So this is a threat to our organization. So our interest should be to fight against whatever fight against the good functioning of the organization. So this has to do with capacity buildings. It is a matter of capacity buildings. If leaders are well trained, they're going to train well the volunteers. And now if the volunteers are not well trained, are mistreated, they have to, with a very respectful way, deal with the subject. Because if they are frustrated, they are not going to be an asset for the organization. On the other end, instead, they are going to be an obstacle. So this is going to be translated by their absence in meetings. They will be not actively involved in the activities of the organizations. So their frustration is going to materialize. So You can express it your way in a very respectful way, but make sure that you don't keep this frustration for yourself when you are a volunteer who is mistreated by the leader, because he himself, he needs to receive that information. This is going to be an indicator that his leadership needs to be sharpened again. This is very important. We are learning every day.
Thank you.
Solid thoughts, Joshad. The second question, well, is a bit beyond the context of this conversation, and we're not in full controls yet of how the policy structures look in terms of registering social entrepreneurship, because it's not yet fully understood by the decision makers and the established infrastructure within CAC. But here are approaches that people have taken. If you know you want to go for an NGO, we don't earn from it, but we have fundraising approaches that keep us sustainable, philanthropy and grant-making organizations that support friends and family, but we don't earn from it, and then we will be tax exempt. You can consider being registered as incorporated by trustees. That allows you operate as a nonprofit in Nigeria. If you would love to earn from a social venture and you want to be able to hold property and assets that could be separated from the organization if you ultimately decide not to continue with it, and you also want to be able to run profitable ventures as a spin-off of your organization so that it's your social enterprise funding your work, then you should go for limited by guarantee. You should register as a limited by guarantee. Sometimes you even actually just start off your social entrepreneurship journey by registering a business name. And that's enough in the beginning. Register as a business name, begin the journey, and then as you fully understand your legal structure, you can upgrade that business name into an incorporated by trustee. If it's going to be a full-on for-profit business, a limited liability organization. And if you want to be able to earn from social impact work, then you consider a limited by guarantee. Those would be my thoughts.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Let's go to Port Harcourt. Port Harcourt, over to you. Port Harcourt. Go ahead. We can't hear you. Can you move closer to the laptop? Not the screen, laptop.
So concerning what Mark said, I want to ask concerning voluntary. My question is the end point of being a social entrepreneur making money? If yes, how then can you leverage and monetize your voluntary service or actions while making money?
Did you hear that, Debola? How can you monetize your volunteering?
Well, we spent the entire day talking about impact and not money. Like we've said it's purpose before profit, it's meaning before money, right? Yeah, it's not the end points. The question was, what if the end point of social, what is the end point of social entrepreneurship making money? If it is, how do you monetize your volunteering? And the answer is no, the end point is not money. But to still help, if you would love to monetize your volunteering, there are actually valuable contexts where you can volunteer, add value, for something that matters a lot to you, and you get paid for it. And you should get paid, you see. I also say that after a while of volunteering for free, young people without other sources of income, beyond that passion toward volunteering, will get frustrated. Passion without reward can lead to frustration. So a point comes where you actually say, I've become so good, only that don't start monetizing your skills in volunteering until you have become a master of your game. Because remember, volunteering is also a model that allows a young person who is still building their capacity come into a space to learn why they also add value, right? Of course, leaders can also volunteer. They're encouraged to volunteer. Experts volunteer too. But if you're a young person, do not seek to monetize until you have become so good at that skill and it really creates value for the organization you're working with. Yes.
Thank you very much. Oh, wow. It has been a wonderful time today. Do we have any other comments from any other person? Okay. Let me check our Facebook page in case there's any. Oh, okay. I have one question here from South Africa or Lesotho, I'm not sure. But he said, my question to both speakers is, in terms of statistics, what has been the impact of social entrepreneurship to the economies of Nigeria, for example, and other countries whose data you might be privy to, like Gabon? Is there, in terms of statistics, what has been the impact of social entrepreneurship to the economies of these countries? And that should be the final question.
So I will go. So in terms of statistics, I don't have quite numbers. What I could say is that the concept of social entrepreneurship has been really effective in Gabon very lately. So there is no proper numbers that I can give in terms of statistics, like business creations, associations that are being created, or businesses that are being created, like in the frame of social entrepreneurships. But in terms of impact, what I can say is that cooperatives have been the entrepreneurship in the framework of cooperative has really how am I going to put that? Has really been made popular, if you can put it this way, through a program of the government, which is called GRAIN. It was in 2014. And based on this program, so many Gabonese people created cooperatives, just like I share my story with you. And with the cooperatives that we created, we have contributed to engage young people in the rural places into cooperatives, but this time around under the umbrella of a legalized entity, which was not the case before. People were just developing individuals, but it has contributed to make people under the umbrella of a legalized entity. Now, I don't have numbers, but what I can say is that people are more and more concerned when it comes to creating cooperatives, engaging, and especially creating legally, not just on paper, because so many people create cooperatives, they run for fund, they apply for fund, but whenever they are asked about their legal status, they don't have anything to present. So they have to go back again there. So since we are doing also an educational activity, we are educating people to be legal in all of what they are doing. I can say that if I remember very well, by 2014, almost 200 cooperatives have been created in Libreville, the capital of Gabon, and also in other regions of the country.
Debola, there's someone who's asking a question on the registration of social enterprise with CAC in Nigeria. Is it available? Is it still available?
That was a question that I previously treated. So as at now with CAC, you can explore incorporated by trustee, but doesn't allow you run the social impact business or the non-profit organization with the intention of making money. And that's not a full bandwidth for social entrepreneurship. Social entrepreneurship should allow you spin off an enterprise that can become a sustainable funding mechanism. That's Ideation Hub, for example. We have a business school for social innovators, and people pay to take our courses to be part of our programs and our immersions. And we use that money to stay in business, even though we're now way decently priced than compared to a for-profit institution. So you can do that incorporated by trustee. You can do that a bit more. Actually, you can sufficiently do that with limited by guarantee. So if you want to register as a social enterprise in Nigeria, go for limited by guarantee. It could take you almost a year to get that registration done. So we sometimes encourage, start with a business name and then get onto that process of fully moving into that legal structure.
Thank you very, very much. Do we have your last word, Joshua?
Well, as a conclusion for me, what I can say is that social entrepreneurship is a very important subject that people should embrace. The fact that we are here today is just an illustration, a perfect illustration of it, the result of all these years of volunteering. And today we are here to give back. And this is even what economic entrepreneurs are doing somewhere along the line when they have accumulated massive success. They end up creating social businesses. They create foundations. They create NGOs because they have to give back. This is almost like a divine established principle. If you have knowledge, you have expertise, you have to give back, even though you are not paid for that. So social entrepreneurship, very, very important. And I will also highlight the importance of the culture of reading. All of what we have said will be complete if each one of us, each one of the participants there makes the decision to read a book, to go far in their learning process, because this is the only way you're going to cultivate your passion. Just like the Bible says, passion is not enough. You have to add education to that. Otherwise, you're going to be very frustrated every day. So the purpose of social entrepreneurship is impact. We hope that all the information that we've provided to you today will hopefully help you to engage by volunteering, but also by having a very strong civic engagement. I will leave you a soft copy of a book that I wrote on social entrepreneurship. This is the French version of it. It's a very small one. You can read it very fast. It will give you all the strategies that you can use in your social entrepreneurship career, and also have mentors. It's very important to have a mentor who can accompany this. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Debola, please, there's a question from American Center here in Lagos. It says social entrepreneurship synonymous with corporate social responsibility. Why you give your final one?
That's a really great question on that side. Corporate social responsibility or corporate social investment is actually been an emerging field, which we're quite excited about. In fact, even though we say emerging, it has been in the center space as far as Nigeria is concerned, maybe even more than social entrepreneurship until maybe about 5 to 7 years ago. They have a correlative but still stand different. Corporate social investment is the response that a corporate private sector institution is making in fixing social problems, especially in the communities where they serve, or the thematic focus areas of their founders. So you find banks, oil companies, insurance institutions, hospitality businesses, sort of focusing on an area of interest, whether within a community they are serving or something the founder or the organization is passionate about. And sometimes we say that the efforts at corporate social investment is often connected to even political reasons, like you want to be at peace with your community so that your business can run effectively. There are also specific mandates of the government that require organizations with a certain level of turnover and profit to give back a certain percentage of that profit into the community and into the economy. So they're sort of bound, and it's what they should do. There's still a lot of corruption even going on within the CSR, CSI space. CSI, yes. But of course, it's a valuable part of the way that private sector institutions are contributing to solve social problems. Where I see the biggest connections and where I actually encourage corporate institutions to strengthen their ability to deliver good work is to pull in social entrepreneurs to be implementing partners for their corporate social investment efforts. Because, well, we actually do have an understanding of the fields and the approaches that can deliver longevity in terms of impact, but they stand separate because for social entrepreneurship, there is a visionary or a visionary organization that has highlighted a specific problem, and they're approaching it with the most innovative strategies to be able to solve that problem, make a difference, and engage in activities that truly transform the beneficiaries at the bottom of the pyramid. And yes, of course, I've had a great time. I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share. Joshad was just brilliant on many levels. It was a valuable conversation. My final words would be a very simple quote, and it says, if you have a mission, you don't need permission. As far as Africa is concerned, the odds are often stacked against young visionary people, but you have to bypass those odds. And maybe bypass is not the word, but, you know, refuse to be stopped by the odds that stand in our way. Keep your eyes on the mission, keep your eyes on the impact you can create, engage actively with your beneficiaries because it keeps your heart burning to make the difference you really want to make, and then actively plug yourself into ecosystems, speak often to mentors. And one big thing that has been working for us is to find organizations doing the kind of thing you're doing in an advanced economy or in a system that works better. You might be able to find best in class global practices that you can localize, and it will quickly move you forward in the way that you seek to get results with your social entrepreneurship venture. Thank you so much, and I'll see you again sometime soon.
Let's put our hands together for Joshad and Debola. We want to appreciate you very much for these wonderful sessions that we've had with you. And we hope to call you again. We know this is going to be a long-term memory for many of us. And for the fact that this is also recorded, we know many people, even children unborn, will benefit from today's session. Thank you very much for the great things you are doing. We hope to see you again. I don't know whether Daniel is there for announcement. Daniel?
Yes, I am here, Samuel.
Okay, so I put on the program to share the program.
Yeah, hello everyone. Thank you so much to our speakers. That was a very good conversation. I believe we all benefited from your wealth of experience. Thank you so much for coming on our program. For announcement, we have a youth development program series which is coming up. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, this is actually a routine program that happens every week. This one is starting on Tuesday, 21st to December, and if you can look at it very well, to December 5th. And if you can also see the time, it's around 2 p.m. Please keep a day with us and ensure that we'll continue this conversation to mark our entrepreneurship month as we continue to have this conversation till the end of this month. Thank you, everyone. Do not forget, please, to join our last session for tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be our last session. Please endeavor to keep a day with us, same time, same venue. Thank you all. It's been a very wonderful time with you all. Bye from me.
Bye-bye. And then thank you for the book from our speakers and for the links. We appreciate you all. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.